Hi, Chris Youngren here again, and welcome back to another Sales Thought of the Day. Today we're picking up on part 2 of how to make the reciprocity laws work for us in sales. Now this week we're going to talk a little bit more about how the law could actually backfire on us and how it could have us agreeing to a unequal or a uneven exchange and have us feeling like we got taken advantage of. To explain how this law could take advantage of you, let's turn to that example of our neighbor helping us with our groceries, and then we went ahead and lent him that fancy, nice, expensive power saw that we never lend to anybody. Now, the neighbor had helped us carry in 2 bags of groceries. It took maybe 2 minutes out of his or her time. And we, in turn, 3 days later, were asked if he could borrow our power saw. Now, this power saw is expensive. We don't lend it to anybody. We're very particular about it. And we really were reluctant whenever he requested that he could borrow it. I mean, after all, it costs $50, $60 an hour to rent one of these. However, we went ahead and relented. Why? Because of the power of cognitive bias. So if your neighbor was offering an unfair exchange and you didn't really want to do it anyway, why'd you agree? Well, you know why. It's the law of reciprocity at work once again. You see, the way this law works is it allows for your neighbor to get to offer that first favor. And then they actually get to pick the get out of debt favor that you are required to go ahead and return. Now, because of this can leave you open to getting played or getting an uneven exchange. It all centers around this immense desire for us humans to even the score. It's so hard for us to accept an uneven exchange, and we just want to get rid of that uncomfortable feeling of owing somebody something. So we'll sometimes agree to do things that we don't even want to do just to respect this law. And there's another emotional reason why you went ahead and lent him that power saw when you didn't really want to. And that's because reciprocity, it's a universal social norm. We don't want to be disliked by flying in the face of social norms. Being known as a mooch is such a harsh label that we're willing to take the short end of the stick when it comes to the favor exchange just to keep this from happening. Now, another way to create uneven exchanges between 2 parties is something called reciprocal compromises. And they're actually probably even more stealth than the do something nice for me and I'll do something nice for you approach. So we can better understand this concept of reciprocal compromises, let's turn to a real-life example that Dr. Cialdini in his book Influence talks about. He said that one day he happened to be walking down the street and he was approached by a Boy Scout who was selling tickets to a Scout-sponsored circus. They were $5 each, so he was asked if he would purchase a ticket. He declined. Then the Boy Scout stopped and said, "Well, if you don't want to purchase any tickets to the circus, how about a chocolate bar for $1 each?" Well, Dr. Cialdini whips out $2, goes ahead and makes the transaction. However, Dr. Cialdini realized that he had fallen victim to the rule of reciprocity because he doesn't even really like chocolate bars and he likes $2 a lot more. What Dr. Cialdini experienced in this Boy Scout example is a perfect illustration of the final aspect of reciprocity bias. And that is, we're obliged to make concessions when someone else has made some type of a concession to us. A great example of using the reciprocal compromise in sales can be used by finance managers when asking a guest for cash down when they're financing a vehicle. Now, first, the finance manager is going to make it known that most lenders do like to see 20% of the selling price as a down payment. And then they give them some good reasons on why it's beneficial for the guest to go ahead and put the money down. When it comes time to ask for the cash down, or if they're going to go ahead and do the 20%, most guests will decline and say I didn't want to put any money down. The finance manager will usually come back with, well, how close could you come to the 20%? If they can't put anything down again, the manager will say, how about 10%? And he figures that amount up and shows it to them. At this point, maybe he'll come up with $200, $300, $400, $500. And then the final compromise the finance manager makes is figuring up the tax, title, and license on his calculator, turning it around and saying, well, you at least wanted to put down the tax and license, didn't you? And he points to that particular figure. Now, I tell you what, I've seen this work when customers tell you right from the beginning that they're not going to put any money down. It works about 50% of the time or more. So it's a great method on helping somebody do something that's actually good for them. I mean, I view this as helping the guest, no different than a personal trainer helping me go through short-term pain to get long-term gain. The guest putting the money down up front is going to help them later on down the road, because after all, by putting the money down, they're going to save money on interest charges and they're going to actually lower their payment. Due to the rule of reciprocity influencing the compromise process, it could lead to a compliance method that could easily be used as a negotiation tactic, and that's called the reject and retreat method. Let's return to that example of the Boy Scout and Dr. Cialdini. First, Dr. Cialdini rejects the Boy Scout's solicitation of the circus tickets. However, then the Boy Scout retreats and makes a second request, which is accepted. Whether the Boy Scout set out intentionally to go ahead and use the ask and retreat method is unknown. However, one possible explanation could be that maybe the Boy Scout was offered a greater incentive to sell the chocolate bars over the circus tickets. And maybe the circus ticket was just kind of a throwaway item to get to what he really wanted to sell, which was the chocolate bar. Either way, the result was the same. And the reciprocity rule has great power, and that great power could actually be used for ill intent. I think Spider-Man's Uncle Ben said it best when he said, "With great power comes great responsibility." And we should use this power. I mean, it's a powerful rule, but we need to be aware of its capabilities and what it could do, and that it could make us either a victim or a perpetrator to the power that lies within the reciprocity bias laws. Well, I hope you learned something today. If you did and you liked what you heard, please hit that like button for me. Also, as always, love to get some feedback for you. What did you like? What did you like? What should I do more of? What should I do less of? Feedback will help make my videos better. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Have a great day.